Let's dive right into this explainer and unpack the absolutely wild evolution of OpenAI Codex. Now, if you follow AI coding at all, you definitely know the name. But the 2026 version? It's a completely different beast. Today, we're tracking a really fascinating story, how Codex went from being just a simple autocomplete model to a full-blown app generation powerhouse.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll hit the death and rebirth, what Codex is in 2026, building with Codex Sites, the walled garden limitation, Taskade Genesis and public apps, and finally, we'll wrap up with which builder is right. Let's get to it.
Section 1. The Death and Rebirth.
Okay, so the dramatic arc of Codex is kind of insane. Back in August 2021, the first model launched to power GitHub Copilot, basically turning English into code. But then, in March 2023, OpenAI just deprecated the API. For 2 whole years, it was essentially a footnote. But then, May 2025 hits, and Codex gets secretly resurrected. Not as a standard model, but as an agent. And that momentum skyrocketed right into June 2026 with the massive launch of Codex Sites.
Section 2. What is Codex actually like in 2026?
Well, we've officially moved way past the era of the autocomplete engine, where the AI just awkwardly suggests your next line of code. The 2026 version is a robust, totally autonomous system spanning your terminal, native desktop apps, your IDE, and the cloud. It doesn't just suggest anymore, you guys, it executes. The core concept you've got to wrap your head around now is agent engineering. It shifts the heavy lifting entirely. You aren't writing every line manually anymore. Instead, you hand Codex a complete task. It goes in, opens the project, edits the files, runs your local dev tools, tests everything, and just reports back. Literally, you've gone from being a typist to being a director. And the sheer power of this new feature set, it's staggering. Beyond the standard CLI and IDE integrations, it connects to external tools using machine context protocol servers, and it even delegates smaller tasks to sub-agents. But for me, the real game changer is the native image generation with GPT Image 2 right inside the harness. Need visual assets for your code? Boom, it's generated and integrated seamlessly without ever breaking your workflow.
Moving on to Section 3, Building with Codex Sites.
Now, Codex boasts over 5 million weekly users. I mean, that's a massive number. But the real story? Roughly 20% of those users are actually non-developers. We're talking analysts, marketers, operators, and that specific segment is growing 3 times faster than engineers. So you've got to wonder, what exactly is drawing all these non-technical folks to a hardcore coding tool?
Well, the draw is Codex Sites. You literally just use plain English. You describe the intake form, or maybe the internal dashboard or portal you want, and Codex builds it, runs it, deploys it to a hosted URL, and validates it. We are looking at a true prompt-to-deployed app pipeline here.
Which brings us to Section 4, the walled garden limitation. Because while this all feels like absolute magic, there are some very strict constraints. Codex Sites is strictly an internal tool builder. First off, it requires a ChatGPT business or enterprise plan, so free, plus, and pro users are completely locked out. Second, your apps are hosted entirely by OpenAI. That means no public URLs, no custom domains, and absolutely zero payment processing. It is completely locked down to the people inside your specific workspace.
So this limitation naturally begs a massive question for creators, founders, and developers who actually want to share their work with external clients. I mean, if 20% of users are building these amazing apps but can't share them outside their company walls, what's the solution? Where do you go when a prompt needs to become a live, public application?
That leads perfectly into Section 5, Taskade Genesis and public apps.
This is exactly where Taskade Genesis comes in. It's built as the total opposite of Codex's walled garden, focusing entirely on openness and customer-facing utility. You use that same describe, build, and deploy loop, typing a prompt in plain language, but the result is a living application published out to the open web, not trapped behind an enterprise login. The contrast between these two is literally night and day, depending entirely on your end goal. Need a public URL and a custom domain? Genesis has it. Codex definitely doesn't. Need external clients to log in to the portal you just built? Genesis offers Genesis Auth for exactly that. Or maybe you want to actually charge money for your app. Genesis features Stripe-powered monetization, whereas Codex strictly prohibits payments of any kind.
All right, Section 6. Which builder is right?
Depending on whether you need secure internal company dashboards or a public-facing monetized platform, your choice is actually pretty clear. Codex Sites is an internal powerhouse, no doubt about it, but it operates on a rolling token billing system, which usually runs power users roughly $100 to $200 a month. Taskade Genesis, on the other hand, is built for public apps and uses a highly predictable flat pricing model that actually starts at $0. So it really all boils down to this. OpenAI has mastered the unified shipping pipeline, the computer use QA, and the internal enterprise environment. They built the ultimate internal tool. But if you want to build the piece of software that your actual clients interact with, pay for, and log into, Taskade Genesis ships the part that touches the open web.
We've seen this technology evolve at a breakneck pace, guys, going from merely suggesting lines of code in 2021 to generating entire deployed applications today. The tools are here, and they are incredibly powerful. So, I'll leave you to ponder this. Which of these platforms is going to drive your next big project? Will it be the walled garden of the internal powerhouse or the freedom of the open web publisher? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.